Hey family, my name is Clyde Morrison. Welcome to CMJ Business Solutions, where we do client acquisition, helping you turn strangers into clients and keep buying your products consistently, predictably, and profitably. So in this series, we're going to talk about the entire 9-step roadmap that's going to take you through turning strangers into clients, and you'll know how to do that on repeat. In this video, we're going to be talking about the first step. What's the first step? Knowing your numbers. So knowing your numbers is where am I at, where do I want to go to, and how am I going to get there? So a lot of times people know where they're at, right? They'll know their sales revenue. They'll be like, all right, I'm making, $200,000 this year, $500,000 this year, and they'll know their numbers. But people really don't know where they want to go to. And if they say they want to go somewhere, it's just an arbitrary number. Oh, I want to quadruple revenue. I want to get to 10 million. I'm like, well, how are you going to get there? So we go through a series of exercises and we say, hey, how do we actually know what's feasible? What is something that looks like based on your industry, based on your history of what you're doing, and based on the potential where you can actually go. So that's the first thing, is where are you and how do we get to the next place? Now, the middle part is how are we going to get there? Things you have to know is what's the cost to acquire a client, right? How much does it cost you to actually acquire a client? And the reason why that's so important, because you're going to be up to spending money on marketing, and you need to know how much you can spend to acquire a client. But that goes to another question. What is a client worth to you? So in order to understand what a client is worth to you, you have to really see what the gross numbers are. And that's going back to lifetime value of the client, which you'll hear a word thrown around. And what we say is the annual value of the client, right? How much does the client bring you in every year? And then the average order value of the client. So when they buy your service, how much do they usually spend? Understanding those numbers will allow you to know, say, hey, okay, these are my numbers right here. Cost to acquire a client will actually bring me in, will actually allow me to be profitable, because now I know what I can spend on a client. Now, beginning with what's my gross profit on every sale, right? So if you make a sale, let's say for $100 to make the math easy, and it costs you $50 to actually produce. So your gross profit is $50. That means every time you go out there and do something, it costs you $50 to go do it. Now, we want to know the lifetime value. So the lifetime value is very easy. Let's say somebody stays with you on average for 3 years. That means if they spent $100 a month, they stayed with you for 3 years, that's $3,600. Let's say it cost you $1,800 to actually service them. So that means your gross profit was $1,800. Now, in most places, they're going to tell you 50% of that is what you can cost to acquire a client, right? Where they're saying, hey, it's $1,800 is your gross profit, so you can spend $900 to acquire a client. Now, I don't advise that for most local businesses, because we don't have 3 years to wait for profit, right? We want to get profitable now. So that's why we go back to the annual value of a client, because now you say, hey, a client, they stay with me for a year. I spent $1,200, and with that $1,200, I made $600, and out of that $600, I'm going to spend 50%. That's the most. Now, we don't want to spend 50%, but let's say we spent $300 to acquire a client, right? So that means we made off this client $300 for the year. Now, we want to try to shrink that number as much as possible. But let's ask you, would you spend $300 to make $600? Even though it's over a year, because now you can say, hey, I can go after clients aggressively, because now my job is just to keep getting clients, because I'm spending enough money to go make out. Every time I put in $3, I get $6 back. Understanding those numbers, now you can say, hey, in order for me to reach my goal, I need to have X amount of clients. And that's why understanding your numbers are so important. So you want to know what it costs to acquire a client. You want to know the lifetime value of a client. You want to know the annual revenue of a client. You also want to know the gross profit of a client, right? And what it costs to acquire a client. So understanding these numbers will allow you to exceed and excel and be able to know how many clients you can go after, and you can watch your budget and see, you'll say, hey, we're within our costs and we're making money. Hope that it helped you out. This is the first video in our series, so know your numbers and know how we're going to actually execute. Stay tuned for the next video, where we're going to go into your offer, how we can make a clear, compelling offer for your prospects, so we can turn these strangers into clients, so that when they see your offer and come and buy your product or service. All right. So see you then. Talk to you later.